Okay, now as part of the reassembling of the watch here, I'm going to be oiling it, and I've got some Mobius oil. This stuff costs about 50 bucks for 2 ounces, really expensive. So the red oil is the Mobius, it's the HP 1300 1300 or the 9104, and this thing expires in 2020, which is great. Comes in a nice can here, so it's very well protected. So I put a dab of that in there, so for oiling. And then I've got this oil is 9010, so this oil is used on quicker moving parts for the watch, and the other oil was used on slower moving wheels and pinions. So it's not a grease, so I use it for the center wheel and maybe the second wheel and that sort of thing. So put these, get my oiling sticks out, and so there's the oiling sticks there. And then I have a piece of pithwood that I jab my oilers into to make sure that they're always clean. And so even to put the oil from here into the can here, you're going to make sure you use the right oiling stick. So I've cleaned this out earlier, so it's in mint condition. So I jam that in like that and then go like this. It's not easy to do. It's kind of a pain in the butt because the oil tends not to. I want to pour it out, but it's not cheap anyway. I'll get that in. I won't videotape all this. So I just put some D5 in there as well right here. I'm going to use that around all the winding parts, so really heavy parts. So this is more like a grease. It's a very heavy viscosity of an oil. So as I oil the watch, I'll very carefully be able to apply the right oil in the right places. So that's the oiling. So the first thing I'm going to do here is put in the barrel. So see if I can zoom in a bit here. Not sure how clear this is, but anyway, so I've got to put some oil in there. So what I'm going to use, typically use a little bit of grease for the barrel, right? Because it's a very high friction device. So I'm going to use my D4 for the barrel. And just put a little tiny bit of D4 right around the edges here. And that'll ensure that the barrel is nicely lubricated to go in there. And there we go. Now, not sure if I put the barrel in first or second or third. Sometimes these watches, and you put them together, I'm not sure which order to put what in, so it looks like I could put some more gears in here before I drop the barrel in. So how do these things go in? So there's the center wheel, so we'll put that in last. Let me figure this out first, and then I'll turn on the friggin' videotape again. So in all my brilliance, I figured out how the wheels go back in, and then the mainspring just slides in right there. So now I'll go ahead and lubricate the holes, the jewels for these barrels here. So I'm going to put some of the HP 1300 here. It's a little thicker, and only because there's a lot of friction there. Excuse me. And then the other ones, I'm going to use the 2010 on. I just put the slightest bit of oil on the top there. What you don't want to do is over oil the jewel. And when you oil it, the oil should stay there for approximately 5 years. I like to put a little bit of oil on top, and then you can oil the other side of it once it's in. But again, like I said, you don't want to over oil it, because if you over oil it, it gets gummed up, and then you've got a different problem altogether. There we go. So that part is oiled, and then the top plate for that, which is right here, I gotta oil this too, which is 1, 2 over. So this one here, yeah, I'll use the 9010 for that there, and then and that's the main plate there, and then I've got this plate here which has got two other jewel holes, and I'll also use 9010 on these two. So this one here and this one here. And if you put too much oil, it's just going to attract dust, and then the watch is going to get clogged down with dust, and then you have a whole other problem. So, and then after you finish doing a bit of oiling, you've got to cover up the oil here so no dust gets in that, and you end up with different problems. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to drop this in here. I think this way I'm going to do it like this. This gear goes in here, and then I've got the escapement goes in here. Now I could have burnished the pivots on these, which is smoothing out the pivots, but they look pretty good. And this one here, the second hand, this is actually the second hand, so you can see how long that is, and it goes all the way through. It goes right through the center here, and then being a bit clumsy here. There we go. And then and this here is where the cannon pinion goes through. I got to stop dropping things. I'm going to break it. I get a hold of this here. Anyway, this is where the cannon pinion goes through, so it's not easy to make a video and do all the talking and all that stuff while you're doing this. So I think I got everything kind of in the right order, I hope. If it's all touching and working, then we're good, right? I hope. The old I hope, it's off to school we go. And then I just have a quick look at it from the other side to make sure it looks like it's all in place. Yeah, that's pretty darn good there. That's touching there. Some of these gears look like they're barely touching, but you got to assume that they're in the right place. And then I'll put in the mainspring here. It goes in like this. It's going to tuck in like that. It should just fall into place. I'll move it over a bit. There we go. So that'll move the complete drivetrain right there. So the mainspring is in place, and then I got to take these plates and figure out where they go. This is the hard part because it's plate mystery time. So I know this plate goes over here, but I can't put this in until I put in this here. If I don't have this in place nicely, then none of it works. So let me just lay that in here. I think that should do like that. I hope that's right. I know this thing goes, when it goes in, I don't like the movement holder at all. Yeah, that's in there nicely. So that goes like that, and then when I put the plate on, the good news is that if I screw this up completely, I can always take it apart and try again. So there's some indication what to do here because of the barrel here. So I know the barrel has to go over the top like that. So what I'm going to do, just to reduce a bit of the friction, is I'm going to put a bit of microgliss on the barrel here. This is a Mobius, which has been around for a little while. It's Swiss-made oil, which is like high friggin' end. So I think oiling is the hardest part, and if you buy or if you get the manuals for these watches, yeah. I know I'm touching this with my fingers, so please don't write. But if you get the manuals for these watches, you'll find that it tells you where to oil, so it isn't such a friggin' mystery. So there, I think everything is kind of in place. So once you do this, then you have to just nudge it with a toothpick or something to make sure that all the wheels are in place here. So I'm just going to try to stay in camera here as I'm nudging. Usually what I do is I'll get the I'll get the center in and then go from there. I'm going to turn the camera off and I'll get this all right. So what I had a little problem here was with the keyless movement here was sticking up, so I couldn't put the plate back on. So I'm going to take a little bit of microgliss here and I'm going to lubricate that here. Lubricate it there. And I'm going to put a little bit of lubrication on the plate here as well. So it's got some good movement there. And it should help it considerably. Like that, and then I got to make sure that this keyless movement is in position here. This seems to be the hardest thing to do when you put these things back together again, because everything seems like it's nicely aligned and then you realize it ain't. Oh, there we go. There we go. I think it slid right back in. So that's good like that. And then I can take some more of this microgliss and put it right here. So it's properly lubricated. And then I'll do the gears. I'm going to do the gears with some different stuff after. I could do it with this, I guess. I usually use a different type of oil for this, but I'm going to use this instead this time. It should work fine. And I cover up the oil, and I'm going to try putting this plate back on again. This is a pain in the butt plate, but now that I got the thing tucked in nicely, the plate should just drop in. If I'm lucky. Do you feel lucky? Punk. So I think I got it in there, but I gotta bang. There it's in. So the plate is nicely in there. So I just have to make sure it doesn't fall out again. That's nice. And then what I do when you put the plates back on and you screw in the screws is that you don't tighten them up until you know that all of the pinions are in the right place. Now typically I'll look down at each one of the jewel holes and I'll make sure that the pinion or pivot rather is sticking up through the jewel hole, and so I don't have any chance of breaking the pivot, because you don't want that to happen. So I can look at that one there sticking out, this one sticking out, so we're all good here. So I'm going to just screw down this plate here nice and carefully, and then I'll screw this down nice and carefully as well, like that, and then like this. I think I'm in business, Alfie. Like that. So I think that's good. And if I put a little bit of power on the motor just with my fingernail like this, that's putting a little bit of power onto the and see how that's spinning nicely. So that's that. Alright, so that's good there. And then I will take the other plate here, my world's favorite plate, and remember I already put some oil on the top of these pivots, but I'm going to put this one down here like this, and this should also, I really hate this movement holder with all my might. Such a pain in the butt. It slides around. I think I got to get a wooden one or something that's half decent here. But you know what? I think the plate just fell in, did it? Not quite sure whether I'm all lined up there. No, I'm not. So when you're doing this, you just do not put any pressure on these things until you're absolutely sure that you're aligned. And I thought I was aligned, but I'm not. So you can usually hear it fall into place. If the wheels are sideways or whatever, you know it's not into place. And they leave gaps in here so you can do this, so you can touch them into place. So I find it hard to do with the camera on, so what I'm going to do is turn the camera off, get these lined up, and then turn the camera on again. It's a matter of poking around until it gets in place. Here I elected to use a little bit of my cleaning cloth there to provide some friction for the movement holder so I wouldn't be pissed off. And I was able to jiggle everything around to get the plate in, which is good. So now it's just a matter of putting in the plate screws, which I dropped a few times. The dexterity of an orangutan, maybe. There we go, that's one. And then I couldn't have had these farther away from me. And there's the second one. Get these in there like that, and you just nudge them forward like this. And then grab the screwdriver and screw these into place. Nice and easy. And I believe everything is in good working order here. Let me just put a little bit of power here to make sure everything is turning. And if you can just look at that, you can see that everything is winding nicely, turning nicely. So that's that part. And then now what I should do is attach the ratchet and everything and put a little power on the mainspring, and if it releases, the power releases from the mainspring, then I got myself a deal. I'm in business, as they say. So what I do is I put the ratchet back. I've already lubed in there, so I should be good. I'm going to need a ton of lube in there. So I've lubed in there, so I'm going to put this in here, and then I'll put this in here. I don't know whether I have to lube on this at all. I think I will put a little bit of microgliss in there because there's lots of friction in there, and you want it to be able to move nicely. And when you do it, you don't have to do it all the way around. You just have to do it where you think it's going to touch, right? And then it'll spread it around on its own, right? So I keep saying right. I don't know if you heard me say right, but I think I'm right. Right. And then I put that in there, and then the world's biggest screw. And this screw actually screws in the opposite direction. And you've got to remember that. And you've got to use a bigger screwdriver to put that thing in, because it is a bigger screw head. And if you use a wrong type of screwdriver, you'll strip it. So to tighten it, you turn it counterclockwise, which is not intuitive. It's counterintuitive. It's supposed to be counterclockwise. So there we go. And you tighten that up. And that can be pretty tight because it spins on that barrel thing. So, and then the ratchet, or the actual mainspring barrel lid, goes on here. And it goes on this way, like this. And I try to line it up so it's square. So I had to stop for a second because my wife came in with a dress she was going to wear for the company Christmas party. And I needed to pay attention and make sure my opinion counts, which I hope it does. Anyway, so I put the wheel in, and then you just move the ratchet back a bit, and the wheel fits in nicely like that. And then you put the screw in, like so, like butter. Fits like butter. And then like that. And then I use a smaller screwdriver to put this in. I think my lighting is crappy here. It's at the wrong angle. And I can actually wind this up with the screwdriver like this. And you see how it's releasing? I'm going to use a bigger screwdriver and show you here. So if I wind this up, and does it spin everything? That's the question, right? This might be too big a screwdriver. There you go. So that does spin everything. So that's working nicely. I also have some winding some keys that I use to do that, which I'm going to try out in a sec. Alright, these are called bench keys. I got one here. I got 3 sets of these, and I got different sizes on either end. And what you do is you put them in like that. Then you just, it's nice because it also cleans out the gears nicely too. So that's winding very nicely, and the watch is stopping nicely as well. So it's, if it stops, that's really nice. That's beautiful. So if it stops too abruptly, that means it's going to get snagged up as it's working. So that's very good. Now I also put a little bit of oil on the top too of the jewels, just to make sure that this is not a jewel, this is the center pinion here, just to make sure they're well oiled. And I've reduced all the possible friction possible in this watch. So it seems to be okay. But we shall see. It's an old watch, so. And those are my bench keys there. Now the next step in this crazy process is to remove the end cap of the balance cock, and then the cap jewel, and then pop it out, clean it, and then oil it. So these are the world's smallest screws. I'm going to put them right here, and hopefully I don't lose them. So, but who knows? Who knows? Then I'm going to push this out with a piece of pegwood. I hope this works. I've done this before, but it's such a pain in the butt. There we go. So there, it's pushed out, and then I flip it over this, and you end up with the 2 pieces like that. And what I'll do is take my watchmaker's putty and clean the end cap here with it. I know you can barely see this. Gotta make sure that this is aligned, because this is pretty detailed work here. It's micro work. Anyway, I'm going to use a putty here and clean the end, and then I'll start again. A bit of movement on my video camera, but let me just... Okay, now that I've cleaned these out with a piece of putty, what I do is I take this is the jewel itself here, right, and and it looks pretty darn clean. I've pegged it out, and I think it's ready to rock and roll. And I put that jewel back in place where it belongs, right in the end here, like so. And then I got to make sure, so it has to go all the way in, and the cap has got to go on top. This is very detailed work here. This is the cap. What I like to do before I put the cap on is put just a spot of oil on the top. Now, theoretically, this will stay exactly where it's supposed to stay forever, but I doubt it. So that's on the top, and now I've got to put this in place. Looks like there's a little marking or something on the end of this thing, like it's been screwed with. Yeah, that's weird. Try to move it into place so that the small grooves on the end are lined up with the hole. This is a very hard work. think I got it, but I'll soon find out. I just press it home a little bit here. And then I use a little piece of pegwood and just press down on this a bit. That looks like it fits nicely. I'm going to turn it around, have a peek. It looks good on the other side. And then I just have to put the screws back in wherever they are. And I'm not sure if you just see my head or not, but anyway, I'm just going to throw the screws in here. There's one. These are the world's smallest screws. Normally I'd put the screw in and then screw it in, but there's one, and I think I dropped the other one on the way over. Where'd it go? Well, let me screw this one in first. Just make sure it's not stuck to the tweezers. I absolutely despise using these little screws here. They are not easy to work with. There's one. Now all I gotta do is find the other one and put that one in. Okay, I got both the screws in, and then I'm gonna put, don't want too much oil in this friggin' thing, so just a drop on the end here. And then that, my friends, is it. And now for the hardest part. So I've already pithed out. Don't be pissing me off. Got a pegwood. Let me just zoom out again here a bit. There we go. And I had to make sure that the pinions on the balance here were nicely cleaned off. Because that's the last thing you want to do, is you put all this together and you realize you got cruddy pinions. So I think that's good there. And then I learned something a long time ago. I think when you put these things back, if you spin the regulator arm as far over as you can, then it's easier when you put the spring in to actually get it to slide into the regulator arm, which is almost impossible sometimes. So it's basically what you do. And then I got to put the other glasses on because this is really fine work. Anyway, I'm going to put this together. Be back in a second. Okay, now the next thing I need to do is put in the pallet fork. I always make sure this is all the right direction. I think that the goes through the banking pins, and it's just put in like so. There we go, and that's between the banking pins. And then, to keep the pallet fork in place, it's got a thingamajobby. I'll change lenses again. So this actually goes in like so, I believe. It's got 2 pins and a screw hole. So how can I possibly screw this up? Pin 1, pin 2, and screw hole. So it goes in like this underneath the wheel here. Then it just drops in like that. I might have done it, who knows. The thing about this is that every time you move the damn thing, it moves. So you think it's in place, but if it's not, you'll screw up the pallet fork, and then you're going to be screwed because you've got no pallet fork. So again, I'm going to have to play with this a little bit and then make sure that's in. There, now the pallet fork is officially in place and it's screwed down with a screw right here, and it's got free movement on there. And so the next test that you do is you put a little bit of I got to tighten this up just a bit. You put a little bit of tension on the spring here, and then you see whether the pallet fork, I'm sure when I get the right winder here, a little bit of tension on the mainspring and wind it up a little bit, and then you just test to see if the pallet fork springs back and forth nicely. Yeah, look at that. See that? See how it snaps back and forth? That's what you want it to do, and I got to put a little bit of oil on the stones. So I'm not sure if you're catching that at all. There it is there, and you just test that. You just do this and then see how it snaps back and forth nicely. There's a little bit of power in the mainspring. Now I just got to do some oiling here on the stones and the pallet, the jewels there on the end of the pallet fork, and then that's going to run well. So then I'm going to put a little bit of oil on the end of the jewel here. Actually, just put it on the escapement itself. And you don't want to oil the pallet fork on the back, so you got to make sure go a few more, and you want to oil it where it releases and catches. Go about 4 or 5 over, and then just a little tiny bit of oil on it. This might even be too much, but we shall see. And that oil will spread like wildfire. There you go. That's not bad. And you got to clean your oiler off, and away you go. Now I'm going to drop in the balance cock with the balance and all the rest of that. And what you do is you make sure, if you're dropping it this way, that the jewel's on this side. If you're dropping it the other way, the jewel's on the other side. It's pretty simple to remember. Now this one goes in like this, I think. Where the hell is this thing attached anyway? Oh yeah, it's over here, which is crazy, man. Just crazy. That means what you do is you tap the fork over, so it's on this side, and then you slide it in this way, like so. There's never been a smooth operation. I can never figure out how to do this nicely. Like that, and then hopefully the balance just fits in place. It's actually really nice if you end up putting it underneath the center wheel too. You idiot. You idiot. There we go. Slide under the center wheel and put it into place, and then move it in like that. There we go. Oh, look at that. It's alive. It's alive for a few seconds. Now it's dead again. So actually the balance doesn't look true. It looks like crunched a bit. That's weird. It's moving, but it actually doesn't look like it's trued up. I'm looking at the balance here, and it looks like right there it's not off center, so I may have to grab that balance and bend it out. I'm not sure. I'll just get this going for a few minutes though, just to make sure it works, and then I'll deal with the balance after. Because that would mean I would have to true the balance, and I have calipers to do that, and I'd have to true it to round as opposed to truing it to flat, because right now it doesn't look like it's trued to round. But the good news so far is that it's moving, and everything seems to be in place. So what I'll do, this watch, remember, wasn't working at all when I first got it, and now I got a little bit of action on it here. Oh yeah, the friggin' balance is way off. It needs to be trued. This is bad news bears stuff. Some hacker got a hold of this one. You can see it. The balance is not round. See when it's spinning? It doesn't spin right. So what I will do is I will wind this thing up anyway, just so I can see how well it does, and then I'll worry about truing it later on. It's spinning off center, so if I get this balance and I actually test it, there, fully wound. There we go. It's spinning nicely, but the balance is effed up. Looks like someone grabbed it and bent it. And I swear it wasn't me. It was the last guy that fixed this watch. But it's working. So, phase 1 complete. It's almost 6 o'clock. I think I got to put this in the state of fix the balance and then do the rest of the stuff at some other time. Maybe this weekend. And that's it for now.